What's good, lunatics? So it's time for a special edition of What's on My Nintendo Switch called What's on My Nintendo Switch Lite. Because of course, the Nintendo Switch Lite is now out. It's now available for you to buy. And I focus the games I'm going to talk about today to games that I think would be great on the Nintendo Switch Lite. And I've also left links in the description down below. So if you want to pick up the games for yourself, you can do that. Oh, and if you're looking for a case for your new Nintendo Switch Lite, my homies over at Tomtoc have created a brand new case for the Nintendo Switch Lite. It's a really dope case that actually fits to your Nintendo Switch Lite. As you can see, there are indentations on the top of the case itself. It's a super slimline case. It holds up to 8 games, and thanks to those indentations, you don't have to worry about your buttons or your joysticks locking up or getting jammed or whatever the case may be. It gives them enough breathing room while inside of this super slim case so that they stay intact and they don't get damaged. They also created this grip case as well, which helps you get a slightly better grip on your Nintendo Switch Lite. It also comes with a free glass screen protector as well. Links to Tomtoc's website and both of these cases are in the description below. Definitely check those out. First game I'm gonna talk about that I added to my Nintendo Switch Lite is actually a game that was recommended by one of you guys. Shouts out to my homie V-Sips who recommended Daggerhood to me. And it's an action platformer by WobblyWare that has you skillfully navigating a bunch of challenging levels using your dagger as this projectile that you can use to teleport yourself. It's another one of those, platforming type games with a bunch of challenging levels. You got 100 levels to enjoy. It's a super cheap game. It's not that expensive on eShop, but I definitely think it's worth it. I enjoyed it. And if there's any other indie games that I haven't mentioned that you think I should be checking out on the Nintendo Switch, definitely let me know in the comment section. I'm always looking for indie games, pretty much things that people tend to overlook that tend to be really, really good games. So if you have any suggestions, definitely let me know. And so that's my question of the day to you guys. What indie games do you recommend to me? What games do you think I should be playing on the Nintendo Switch? And let's keep it on indie games. I really want to check out some of these games that sometimes get overlooked. And you never know, may appear in my next video. Sounds good. Another game I added to my Nintendo Switch is Astral Chain. This is an action game developed by Platinum Games, the same folk that brought you Mad World, Nier Automata, and the Bayonetta series as well. You play as this detective who has to solve a bunch of cases, investigate incidents that take place in the world. You question a bunch of NPCs and examine evidence to find clues and solve the different puzzles. You also battle a bunch of enemies and solve puzzles by summoning your legion who's attached to you by the Astral Chain, which of course you learn more about in the story. It's another insanely inventive and imagination-rich game by Platinum Games. I think it's a must-have in my book if you're a fan of games like Nier Automata and Bayonetta, of course. It kind of sort of falls in the same vein. While it's not particularly the genre of games I lean towards first, I have enjoyed the hell out of it. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. Another game added to my Nintendo Switch is Terraria. This is an action-adventure type game. This game has gotten a lot of praise from a lot of critics. You can read a lot of great things about it. The game revolves around exploration, building, crafting, combat, and mining, similar to like a Minecraft type situation. And basically, it's the standard affair of mining resources, building, digging, and combat, and all that kind of stuff. You can use those resources to craft new items and equipment and whatnot. It's a super fun game if you're into the whole Minecraft kind of gaming. Definitely worth checking out. I've also added Picross, the Lord of Nazarick on my Nintendo Switch. I'm a huge fan of Picross games, so I had to pick this one up. I pretty much love all of Jupiter's Picross games, but this one has to be like my least favorite of the bunch, simply because it's attempting to tell a story that I could honestly give 2 craps about. I feel like they overcomplicated things a little bit with this release, and I find myself just skipping through as much dialogue as possible to get to what I really came for, which is the puzzles. If you're looking for a great puzzle game, I always recommend the Picross series of games. In this case, I definitely recommend checking out Picross S1, 2, or 3 over this game. It's just a straightforward, no frills Picross game with a bunch of different types of gameplay elements as well. But the puzzles in this one are still great though. Once you get past all of the dialogue, maybe worth checking out. I don't know. And I also picked up The Messenger. Great game to play on the Switch Lite. This is an action platformer game by Devolver Digital. Deals with a village of ninjas being attacked by this demon king. And you play as this hero who's supposed to take this scroll from these surviving ninjas and bring it to the top of the mountain. It really takes a lot of inspiration from Ninja Gaiden, and about halfway through the game it becomes more of a Metroidvania style game. I do love the art style of this game. It looks pretty daggone cool and it's worth checking out. And I had to add Super Kirby Clash to my Nintendo Switch collection. This is a free-to-play game that basically has you in a bunch of boss fights with a group of friends. You can also play solo with 3 computer allies or, of course, with a group of 4 friends. It's pretty basic, but it's also fun. There's an offline and an online mode. You get to level up, buy new gear, buy specials, and buy stickers and whatnot. There are in-app purchases, but if you don't want to spend any money on this game, you really don't have to. But if you're like one of those impatient folk who have to have like everything up front, you can definitely end up wasting a lot of money on this game. I don't suggest it at all. Don't do that. But it's a pretty decent game. I recommend checking it out. It's completely free. Why not? Hey. Another game I added to my Nintendo Switch collection is Final Fantasy IX. This is one of my favorite Final Fantasies in the series. Of course, we all know this is an RPG by Square Enix that basically tells the story of a war between nations in this medieval fantasy world named Gaia. It's one of the last traditional turn-based Final Fantasy games by Square Enix, which are still, to date, my favorite types of RPGs. And while games like Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy III tend to get a lot of praise by people, I would say Final Fantasy IX is arguably a better game. Just like overall, I absolutely recommend it. Definitely check it out. But yeah, and I definitely had to add Final Fantasy VIII Remastered to my collection. This is pretty much, as it says, a remastered version of the classic Final Fantasy VIII game that came out on the original PlayStation. What I like about the remastered version is that they didn't really spruce it up too much. They kind of kept that same feel of like the old PlayStation style blocky graphics and whatnot, but they just cleaned things up a bit, so they're not like too outdated. I appreciate what they did here. If you haven't played Final Fantasy VIII, it is a great turn-based RPG. It may not be on the level of like a Final Fantasy IX in my opinion, or Final Fantasy VII, but I do think it is a solid game and one that you definitely should check out. I also added Lines Infinite to my Nintendo Switch. This here is just a super simple puzzle game with about 99 different levels where you try to connect colored dots to one another. It can get a little challenging at times, but overall it's a simple game that I got for like 99 cents, so yeah. It is what it is. A couple hours of fun, no complaints here. It's not worth more than $1 though, honestly. And I also added Harvest Moon Light of Hope to my Nintendo Switch collection. If you played Stardew Valley, pretty much Harvest Moon is like the predecessor to Stardew Valley. But honestly, I would have to say that I actually kind of like Stardew Valley more than I like this new Harvest Moon game. The Harvest Moon name is owned by a brand new company now, so they pretty much just like use the name to make a new Harvest Moon game that really isn't the true Harvest Moon that we all grew to love back in the days. Overall, it's a decent game, but if you're looking for like a farm simulator, I would definitely lean towards Stardew Valley. I just think it's a far better and more well-rounded game. And of course, as a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber, I had to download Super Nintendo Entertainment System onto my Nintendo Switch to enjoy all of the plethora of classic Super NES games. I have been wanting this since they announced NES on the Nintendo Switch Online. I am definitely a bigger fan of Super NES games than I am of NES games, so I do look forward to the games they eventually add to the service. You got a ton of classic Super NES games here. You know, Super Mario World, you got Super Metroid, Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, Super Mario Kart, Kirby's Dream Course, and even Stunt Race FX, which hasn't been available since it originally released back in '94. It's a solid beginner lineup of games you can throw hours and hours into. If you haven't played any of these classic games, I definitely recommend them, especially if you're a big 2D game fan and you happen to have missed that whole time period of Super NES. Maybe you're a younger fan, maybe you're an older fan who never had a chance to play Super NES. This is where to go. I would avoid NES completely and I'd go straight to the Super NES. I prefer their games. So yeah, I'm super happy about this. I'm enjoying it. And if you're a JRPG fan, definitely check out Collection of Mana, another game I added to my Nintendo Switch collection. It includes Trials of Mana, which is available outside of Japan for the first time ever, and you get to play all 3 games in the Mana series. Mana is a series by Square, of course, and this is basically like a compilation of the most legendary Mana games in the series. So if you love the series back then, or if you're a fan of retro JRPGs, this is definitely a must-have. And there's no way in hell I was gonna get a Nintendo Switch Lite and not get myself the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake. This is a classic game from the original Game Boy, which came out back in like '93. What I love about this remake is that it has like this retro modern art style, which combines like the 2D elements from then with like the modern graphics and whatnot of today, and like this cute, like just freaking adorable art style. It looks really nice. You got these like toy-like characters, diorama like world designs, tilt shift visuals. It's beautiful, man. It's truly incredible what Nintendo is doing right now with the Nintendo Switch. And with the Nintendo Switch Lite, obviously you have this more portable console now that you can take with you wherever you want to go. Like, it's just so dope. This month I'm giving away a free copy of Harvest Moon Light of Hope, the special edition for the Nintendo Switch. All thanks to my homie Destiny Fomo. Check her out at the link in the description. And all you have to do to enter for a chance to win is to answer the question of the day in the comment section below and head on over to tuanx.com and join the Lunatics, because that's the only way you're gonna find out if you won. You also get a discount code for a t-shirt and whatnot, which is also pretty cool. Winner is announced on October 1st. Links to everything are in the description below. And remember to stay crazy.